welcome to Preparing for Life Storms with Bear Prepper. Today is Tuesday, February 12th, February 19th, 2013, and it's my pleasure to welcome you in tonight. We are on air from 8 to 9 p.m. Central Time every Tuesday on American Preppers Radio, powered by PrepperBroadcasting.com. We broadcast 12 different hosts 7 days a week, so please check out the host tab for more information on shows and times. You can also listen to all previous shows under the host archive. If you'd like to join us in the chat room, come on over to PrepperBroadcasting.com and click on Listen and Chat at the top of the page. It'll then take you to the chat room. Just create your name or accept the default and come on in. You'll always be in for a treat with some lively chat and interesting conversation. You can also catch our show on the phone if you can't get a great connection at 347-202-0228. That's the same phone number you can call in at any time to ask your questions. Just press 1 so that you're connected to the producer. So tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Central Time, we have Goat Hollow and the Surreal News, the facts about where our world is heading without the slant. Also, we have a special presentation from Charlie in the Box on Saturday, February 23rd at 6 p.m. So you guys all heard him here on this channel, so go join him on Saturday and let's show him our support. So tonight I have a special guest. I've followed him on YouTube for many years, and he is just the kindest person you've ever met, so willing to share his knowledge and his just everything about him. He's a great person, and he gives a lot to his community, along with the YouTube community. He's into animal husbandry. He raises most of all, if not all, his own meat, and he takes us along for the ride to show us how to take care of ours as we all make this path into taking care of animals. So let's have a great big welcome for SebagoSteve. Hey, Steve, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing very well, Bear. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, and you know, a lot of people are really excited about this show. Chat room is filling up faster than I can blink, and you know, this was a requested show for animal husbandry, and I thought, who is the one person I know that knows just everything and lives it? And tell us a little bit about your background and what you do.
Okay, I'm in my professional career, I'm in the glass and glazing industry. Manufacture insulating glass and commercial storefront for distribution throughout Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, and Massachusetts, so northern New England, basically. And I've been in this industry for about 27 years now. So
wow.
It kind of took me in a different direction with my life, and I was a shareholder and the vice president of the company for 18 years, and decided that my true calling was not to be a millionaire. My true calling was to be self-reliant. So I decided the standard of living or quality of life, I chose quality of life. So, and that brought me to you.
Well, you have a working farm, is that correct?
Yes. Well, I guess you could call it a working farm. I have 30 acres, approximately 2 acres of pasture land, but I bought the property next door to me, so I gained another 2 acres of pasture land when I purchased that, and I've kind of fenced it all in so to let my steers roam. And I have working cattle, which means that I prefer to take my steers and I use them for hauling logs and working around, basically logging with them. I like to work them in the forest more than haul carts around and stuff like that. But so I have a large team that's 5 years old, and I have a small team that are just turned a year old in November, and I presently have 17 laying hens, laying hens. I guess you call them laying hens. Some of them are crossed up. There's game birds in there. There's some guinea hens and a few bantams, and one rooster, which is a speckled Sussex. And he's very docile, so I kept him. And anyone who's not playing by the rules, I bought her off. And I have a 1,000-pound boar hog right now, and my dogs. Yeah,
Wow.
he's a big boy. He's got to find another home. I'm not I'm not fond of feeding him, so he eats quite a bit of grain. So
what happened to your two little pigs that you had?
On Easter, I butchered those. I butchered those myself. I decided that I was going to, having never done it, I decided that I was going to try this experiment by myself. So I had a couple of my friends come over, and we butchered them and smoked them, canned them, and froze the parts that I didn't want to can. You know, the ribs and some of the smoked meat I didn't can. But all the ham meat, I sliced it up, cubed it up, and put it into quart jars, and processed them that way. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Beth.
Oh, that stuff when you don't buy. You know, people seem to think that you can go in the store and buy one of those pre-cooked hams and can it up and get some wonderful product. But you take a fresh pig and you can that stuff up, and that is just absolutely to die for.
You hit the nail on the head. I am not a big fan of what goes into our foods that you purchase in the stores, and by default, I'm more of a woodsman than I am a farmer. I really am much more at home in the forest, hunting, fishing, trapping, foraging, that type of stuff. But by necessity, I decided that I needed to learn how to do these things on my own, and it took me in a different path. And it's trial and error. That's how I learned. I read everything I could, consumed as much information as I could, and I never knew about YouTube until about 2.5 years ago, or whatever it was that I clicked on. So I was just trying to do it the old-fashioned way. I'm really a throwback to the days of old. I root cellar some vegetables and the old style, the old way of preserving food, stuff so that you could eat it for years to come.
Yeah, I think more and more of us are becoming that way out of necessity because, prices they're really going way up. And I know a lot of people don't notice it because sizes are getting smaller. Even the ball canning jars, they've changed their process, and they're just a lot thinner than they ever were before and not made as well. And all of that guides us into being on our own and with what they're putting in our foods, and it's just crazy nowadays.
It certainly is. You take a look at just the additives that go into some of the drinks that you drink, aspartame, or in your toothpaste you got fluoride. I mean, there's just so much junk, so many toxins that they're. And I'm not I got to be careful how I say this, but I'm not a crunchy type of guy. Very realistic. I just look at it, and our ancestors tended to have a healthier life than we do. If you look back through the pictures of old, there's a lot of skinny people walking around. They were working hard for their meals, and we've gotten a little complacent, and it's a lot easier to go and have someone else bring that food to you. You go to the grocery store, and everything's laid right out there for you. I like to grow what I eat as much as I possibly can, which is quite a bit. But I just I have better control over what goes into my body.
Yeah, I would agree. I know I just posted a video not too long ago that they're putting rubber in our bread to make it last longer, and so you can make it. You know how people, they go into the store and they squish a bread. If it doesn't bounce back, they pick another loaf. Well, the reason it's bouncing back is because they're putting rubber in it.
Is that not say it all right there? It's pathetic. It is pathetic. And diabetes is rampant. And people are putting too much of that white bread in them and into their bodies. And if I can raise a chicken, I can't dictate everything that goes into that chicken during the process, because I'm subjected to the same grain as a lot of the poultry producers are subjected to, but I can control the type of feed that I put into them, and as much as I can what I can control is the whole butchering process. The quality of life of that animal is important to me. The quality of life of every animal that I consume, that I raise, is important to me. It sounds a little weird, but I always have a connection to my food, some way or another, and they all serve a purpose. And if it's an animal, when that time is up, their final purpose is to feed me. So as long as their quality of life is the best that I could possibly offer them while they're here, I tend to feel better about the actual butchering process, because I'm not sensitive, but I do view it in a spiritual way. When I take even the life of a chicken, I view it a little differently. So
right, because it's giving back to you, and and that's what God did. So He gave them to us. But
absolutely,
okay, so I'm a newbie when it comes to raising animals for food. And, I've got my retreat, which I only go to every 2 weeks, but I have a neighbor who is willing to help me out for a short period of time, not, every day for the next year. What would you recommend as either my first meat project or a newbie's first meat project?
Well, you can't beat a chicken. A broiler, for instance, in 5 weeks, you can raise a 4.5 to 5 pound, well, I'll say 4 to 5 pound broiler. And that's a good return on your money. And if you go the extra week, if you go to 6 weeks, you're raising 6. They start gaining 2 pounds a week from there on out. So I actually start butchering sometimes at 4 weeks and finish them at 5 weeks. Depends on the size that I'm looking for. But they're easy to grow. It's a short period of time out of your life, because they do require attention. They certainly do in the way I raise them. They require some attention, but it's over in a short period of time, and the reward is will take you through a whole year.
Oh, I'm so excited.
The cheapest way to do it is to go to your supermarket and buy your chicken there, because they can raise it a lot more economically because of just sheer volume than you can. But I will assure you of this, Bear. The quality of the product that you raise will be far and above anything you've ever consumed out of a supermarket.
Oh, I know.
And I'm saying that I'm guaranteeing you that, because just the fat content in the birds that I raise, they're a fattier bird, and fat is flavor. So there's all that fat goes into that meat, and it's actually extremely flavorful and very juicy and moist. And they're not getting pumped full of whatever antibiotics and whatnot. I buy the grain I buy. I do not buy medicated grain. That's one thing I do not do. So, go ahead, babe.
Okay. Well, I got lucky enough when I was 17 to live on a street where it was nothing but older people, and they were, I can't say old anymore because I'm reaching their ages. And so they had chickens, and they had pigs, and they had cows, and so I got to be a part of the feeding them all and learning about them and harvesting them. And so, and then, of course, they let me eat it afterwards. They had me over for dinner. And you're right, that chicken is just amazing. Yes.
The end product that you get to control what you want. I tend, when I butcher my chickens, I take the gizzards, the hearts, and the livers. And the liver is the one key that I look at. If a liver doesn't look healthy, I certainly wouldn't consume it, and chances are I wouldn't even consume the whole bird. But if you have a nice, healthy-looking liver, then you know you've done your job. So when I butcher a chicken, I take the feet, the heart, the liver, and the gizzards, and I stick them back in the cavity when they're all done. And those get packaged that way because your feet have a lot of flavor in them. And if you're making a stock or even the Asians, the Vietnamese immigrants that I deal with here, they take all secondary products that I don't want. Like, for instance, any roosters that I have in my laying flock, I'll raise those for those people, and they'll take them because they take and utilize more of that product, more of that bird than I do. From the blood to the intestines, they consume. Not much goes to waste. Just probably feathers. And we barter back and I barter back and forth with these people, and they'll when the tides are really low, they'll bring me a bucket of hen clams so I can make clam chowder or clam cakes, and I will give those people roosters. When they make spring rolls, they'll bring me 3 dozen spring rolls. We go back and forth. It's a good relationship. So.
That's wonderful. Hey, it looks like we've got someone in the queue. We've got Pet Prepper in the queue. Hey, Pet Prepper, come on in.
Hi, guys. Steve, this is just, I've been looking forward to this show. Really, really looking forward to it. I have like a gazillion questions. I'm going to keep it to 2. But first of all, I have to say I love your accent.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's pretty thick.
Tradition. I can make it thicker if you want me to turn it up a little bit, but I'm trying to keep it professional.
Not much thicker than yours, Pat.
Okay, no. Okay, my first question. I'm getting pigs in the spring, and we have an old. I live in an old farm, and there's a wooden fence with the big, huge, huge posts that are in the ground, and then it's got chicken wire around the bottom of it. Is that going to be enough to keep them in, or am I going to have to get some electric fencing? I've heard a whole bunch of different opinions on it, and I want to do the right thing.
Pigs root. Put on soft ground, they'll root. And there's a strong possibility that they will root through that. Once a pig gets to a certain size, 3 men and a boy can't hold them down. They're just one big ball of muscle. My suggestion would be to run one strand, just a single strand of hot wire, say 18 inches off the ground, or a foot off the ground, something like that. And when they're piglets, just sit there and watch them. When you get standoffs and put them on your fence posts and make up just one single loop, and you'll watch them. You'll sit there, grab yourself a 6-pack of beer, and go sit down and watch these piglets, because as they put their nose, that wet nose on that wire, they're only going to do it about 3 times, and then the dilemma is going to be when it's time for you to bring them out of there, they're not going to want to cross that line. Whether the fence is up or not, they're not going to want to come out of there. So they learn quick.
Okay.
That's funny.
Good information. The second question I have, I've had chickens for quite a long time. I live in Minnesota. We've had a lot of well below 0 temperatures here this year. And I have 10 hens. I was getting 8 to 10 eggs a day. And during the really cold spell, I was getting 10 every single day. And all of a sudden, 4 days ago, it completely stopped. I have no eggs. I haven't had eggs for 4 days. And I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if something's in there stealing them. There's no cracked eggs or any, evidence of. I don't know.
Cannibalization, where they would cannibalize the eggs. I keep in my laying boxes. I put shavings, wood shavings, pine shavings. So if I don't have any eggs for a day, I can go in and just stick my hands down through the shavings, and if they come up in a clump, I know that they've consumed the eggs. And that usually happens when confinement. This is my experience. Has been there's a confinement issue. They feel really confined, or I throw scratch feed down a lot, or actually I just put down cracked corn. I scatter cracked corn on the ground, and that tends to take their mind and let them focus somewhere else. But I've had hens in the past that no matter what I did, were going to cannibalize eggs, and I eliminated the hen.
Okay, and there's no eggshells or anything left in there to see?
No, they'll consume the eggshells. As a matter of fact, if you hard boil eggs and you take those shells and throw them back in they'll consume them for the calcium.
Okay.
They'll devour them. But the other thing you may want to think about doing is, do you have any? Obviously, it's probably not heated, but do you have a light in there, some source of light?
Yep, I have a red heat lamp that I leave on when it's really cold. I leave that on all the time, and then I have another light that is on a timer so that they've got 9 hours or 12 hours of, depending on the time of year, because every day it keeps changing. I just, I fluctuate,
Yeah.
Or whatever. So.
Well, my experience was
they're getting the proper amount of light.
Yeah. I just ran when I had during December when it's 8 hours of light and it's bitterly cold. In the past I have run a light and kept it about 18 inches off the ground, just a 60-watt bulb, something that they can get underneath and heat their combs up, and it also gives them additional light. And I leave it on 24 hours a day, to be honest with you. Just a small light, something to give them light throughout the night. As a matter of fact, I have tea lights in these little lamps. They're not candles. They're just little lights that I leave on all the time in the barn. So even at night, they cascade a little light. So they don't get freaked out sometimes, with the big bang noises with the steers in there. But where I keep mine now is in my barn that I keep them in is a 36 by 52 barn, and they stay in there with my steers and my pigs. So the barn never gets. There's always like a 15-degree, 20-degree difference between the exterior temperature and the interior temperature of the barn, just from the steers and the pigs. So right. I haven't experienced these issues in a long time, to be honest with you.
Okay. So you keep your pigs and your chickens in the same area, or are they separated somehow?
Oh no. They stay right in the same area. If I really wanted to be thrifty, I would clean my chicken coop out and put it everything that comes out of the chicken coop. I'd throw that in the pig pen, because a pig will consume everything that comes out of a chicken.
Oh,
and
right.
if you throw at a pig, in years gone by, the pig was always in the bottom of the barn, and the chicken coop, at least up here, a lot of people had their chicken coop upstairs with a mesh wire in the bottom of the chicken coop, and all the droppings went down into the bottom of the barn. And then when they cleaned out their horses or their steers, they would push all that down underneath the barn, and the pig lived underneath the barn because he'll go through the manure and eat everything that isn't digested by the other animals. I know it sounds gross, but that is truly the way pigs were raised. So.
Okay. What great information. Oh, my gosh. That's so
if you don't think so, when you get your pigs, take some of your chicken manure and just throw it over the fence and watch them. They'll have
I will.
The buffet will be open. There'll be some wagging tails.
Oh, well, thank you so much for taking my call and answering my questions.
Well, I hope I helped, but the pleasure was mine. Trust me.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Have a good evening.
You too. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, we've got a bunch of questions coming up. Let's see. We've got Baby Prepper 88. Can you grow your own calcium feed for your chicken?
That's a good question. I don't. I've never even looked into it because I like to open my barn and open my doors up in my chicken house and let my chickens out every day to forage, to run, even in the dead of winter. It wasn't until recently that I started just doing it when I'm around, because I was losing a few to foxes. So they tend to eat whatever they forage for more than half of their feed, and in the summertime they'll forage for most of their feed. So even in the wintertime, along the sides of the road, the driveway where the trees come down, the leaves, whatever's I plow up, they still go through there and pick up what they get. I have never done that, no.
Okay. And it looks like we've got a question from G-Man. You'd like to know about cooking pigs underground in burlap. Have you ever done that?
No, but it's intriguing, and that's one of the things that's on the docket for next year. Not this year, not 2013, but 2014. I want to have a little pig roast, and that's how we're going to do it. I have done them on spits over a fire, but never underground.
Oh, that sounds like fun. I've seen it on TV, but I've never done it either or seen anyone do it. Okay, I'm going to take a quick little break here. We've got a couple of advertisers. We got to pay the bills, and we'll be back with you in a moment.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm Frank Bates. I just created a free video at survivewithsolar.com that exposes the electricity monopolies and the government for what they really are, incompetent, lying crooks that are counting on your fear to keep your power bills criminally high. My video at survivewithsolar.com exposes the truth and shows you the secret of how I beat them and how you can beat them too. Go to survivewithsolar.com and discover one weird trick to slash your power bill and protect your home before they make me shut it down. Again, that's survivewithsolar.com.
Tonight's broadcast brought to you in part by Joe and Amy Alton, the authors of the #1 Amazon bestseller, The Doom and Bloom Survival Medicine Handbook. See their articles in Backwoods Home, Survivalist, Self-Reliance Illustrated, and Survival Quarterly magazines. Visit Joe and Amy's website at www.doomandbloom.net. Well, welcome back, everybody, to Preparing for Life Storms with Bear Prepper. If you're listening in on Blog Talk Radio, come on over to prepperbroadcasting.com. Click on the Listen and Chat and join us in the chat room. We've got a large crowd in here tonight for SebagoSteve from YouTube. He's talking to us about animal husbandry. And, folks, you've got probably about 30 minutes left to call in. So if you have any questions, call on in. I'm not real good at watching that chat for questions, and we appreciate actually hearing your voice. And for when people listen on the archive, they can hear the same questions. So, Steve, we were talking about chickens and pigs when we left, and I guess we're going to continue on in that area just a little bit. You were talking about your plans for next year of roasting a pig underground. What other plans do you have in store for us over this next year on YouTube?
Well, I've kind of taken a little bit of a step back. It's the things in life that I find enjoyable, a lot of people might not find enjoyable. As, for example, working my cattle in the forest. That is my true passion. I absolutely, I love my cattle. I would rather have cattle than any other animal, to be honest with you. Cattle are what got me into this in the first place. It was a team of steers that I got in 2002, and I just got hooked, and I sold a lot of property and made a whole lifestyle change to do what I'm doing. It was a dramatic change, and I had to drag my wife along with me, and she's not. I won't say she's not on board, but. She's doing a lot better now, but it's been a tough struggle. A lot of this, what goes on this property, is a one-man band. raise it, I grow it, and I'm basically on my own when I do it all. Her job is when I put it on the porch. Her job is to can it, so she processes the canning part of it. And when it comes to the chickens or any meat products, she vacuum seals and freezes it. So, and I don't ask her to do any more than that. That's enough because I don't want to push it. It's just not her thing. She would go to the supermarket every day. It's much easier for her.
Well, you'll convince her over time. I'm sure you will. Hey, it looks like
it's kind of it's not really a convincing. It's more of this is what I'm going to do. I'm not going to change who I am. I'm just one of those people that just can't be yoked in, so to speak. I've tried the other lifestyle, and I can't do it. This is I'm a hillbilly country boy, redneck, if you want to call me that. I'm fine with all that terminology. I'm just an old-fashioned New England boy that was born in the wrong century, and rather she kind of knows that this is kind of the way it has to be, and we find common ground, so we work it out.
There you go. And I'm the same way. Everyone tells me I'm a throwback from another age, but it looks like we got 2 people in the queue, so let's go ahead and bring VM in first. Hey, VM, come on in.
Hey, I was just wondering what you think about the electronical rising for chickens and stuff like that.
The electronic raising the chickens?
Yeah. So like whenever at a certain time the door opens, so this way like they could either free range or depending on if you have a big pen, so this way you don't have to go out and do it, and yet they're still safe.
Oh, if that's an option for someone, and that probably I could see where that would work for some people. Myself, I interact with my animals, so I'm going down to my barn to do chores in the morning, and I'm going down to do chores in the evening. And chances are, if it's a weekend or one of the days that I'm not working, I will go down and open the door and let my chickens out anyway. So, I keep them for 17 chickens. They have a pretty good sized area. I believe it's probably about 26 feet by 14 feet with 3 roosts in it. So there's plenty of space for that amount of chickens. They don't peck, they don't pull their feathers, so they're pretty comfortable. But once again, if that's something that somebody has access to, and you live in an area where you don't have to keep an eye on your chickens, I'd be all for it.
All right. Well, I was just wondering because I didn't know like some people don't like getting up that early, but yet their chickens are ready to get out the door whenever the very first light comes out. So I didn't know if that would be a problem, knowing that, hey, I'm not technically watching them, but I understand that someone like you might get up before the sun rises to let them out.
I only get up when I have to. But I will tell you my experience. A fox will wait. A fox will figure out your routine. And if you go up at 6 o'clock in the morning, which I used to do, right at the crack of dawn and open the chicken coop, as soon as I turn my back and walk away, boom, he's got one of my birds. Or he's trying to drag one of my geese down through the pasture. Or it's a brutal world, and Mother Nature has its way of thinning the flock, so to speak. So I try to eliminate as much of that as I can. And my dogs are very good. They're very, very good at protecting what I have for animals. However, even they, while they're watching the bird feeder, making sure the squirrels don't go in the bird feeder, Mr. Red Fox is coming through the back door trying to scoff up some of my chicks. So I have to keep a closer eye on them, and I do. And the guinea hens that I have 3 guinea hens, and they're actually very good because they're very alert, and they've actually helped me maintain my flock size.
Yeah, well, I was just wondering because someone like you, I get that would have to check up on them, but I mean, I'm one of the younger people here, so I'm trying to absorb as much information as I can. But if I had the money, I think I would I would free range them and also keep them in theirs. I would, from a certain period of time, I would have it raised up so this way they can be in their own little barn. But then whenever I can let them out for free ranging, I think it would be nice to also be able to have that on a timer. But so this way you don't have to be out there exactly at dawn or whatever. But yeah, you can still kind of keep an eye on them.
Sure. I don't have the ability to. I don't have the luxury of having flat land. I'm on top of this rock here, and there's a lot of distractions and a lot of stone walls, and there's just a lot of places for things to happen that are out of your sight. So it's a lot more difficult for me to let them out and turn my back and walk away. And I do that from time to time, and especially right now. It's easier when it's snow on the ground because they can see any predators coming, as long as they're not coming from the air. But any four-legged animal that's coming up through the forest, they can see down through the forest a couple hundred yards right now, and it's not as big a deal. But once spring gets here and the forest closes in on me, totally different story. I'm a lot more vigilant on protecting my animals.
Would you be worried about them not getting in during in at night if it closed by itself?
I certainly would. I manually wrangle my birds in every night. Let me back up. I have some game birds, some American game fowl, and I've crossbred those into my domestic chickens. So a lot of my chickens tend to have a little bit of a gamey streak to them, and they'll roost in the trees if given the opportunity. So, but as they get older, they tend to mellow out a little bit, and the chickens are just like a pig. The creatures, or just like a human, they're creatures of habit, and they get in the habit of knowing when it starts to get dusk, they go in and they fly up on the roost. They don't want to be outside. And right now they're perfectly trained. So I can open the door, and if it's cold and windy, I go in. They're all sitting on the roost anyway because they don't want to even go outdoors. But they at least have the option to do that. So.
Well, Dan, thank you for all the wonderful questions. We've got some more people in queue and a few other questions. So thank you again for calling in.
Thank you, and I understand.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Dan.
Bye.
Okay, so we've got Jay in queue. Hey, Jay, come on in.
How you doing this evening?
Doing well, and yourself, sir?
I'm doing well. Hey, Steve, as you might be aware, occasionally I have questions from time to time that I'll ask forgiveness if it's a little too simply. We have some chickens, and if I missed this earlier, I apologize. They're interested in letting some of the eggs hatch. We've never done this before. What do I need to check for with those eggs? How do I handle them and make sure they're good, or do I just leave the birds sit on so many eggs and see what happens? What's the real simple basic process for me?
Okay, do you have a rooster?
I do.
Okay, well, there's a strong possibility that you have fertile eggs. Myself personally, I have a machine that it's just a little box with a light in it, and I can candle my eggs. But I only do that if I have an incubator and a hatcher, large ones, very large ones. If I'm going to hatch eggs in those, I will candle them. Otherwise, if the bird is turned broody and wants to hatch some eggs, and I'm okay with where she is, first of all, the location, if she's in a good spot, so that she's not going to be pestered, or when the chicks hatch, they're not going to have to jump 4 feet down to the ground or something like that. As long as she can be protected, I'll let them sit. I will take a note of when they took to sitting, and then give them 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks, and if they haven't hatched by then, chances are they're not going to hatch. But I'll let them sit until I'm pretty sure that they're either going to hatch or not going to hatch. And you'll know in 3 weeks. So,
will she naturally just sit on a certain number of eggs, or or will the other hens that generally lay a lot of eggs in there continue to try and drop eggs in there? Am I going to end up with a big pile of eggs?
That's pretty much that's why I was saying if she's in a safe spot, because if you get a bird that is setting on some eggs in one of the cubbies, the laying box, the other birds are still going to climb in that box. There's a strong possibility they're going to climb in the box and try to continue to lay eggs in that box. So she's going to be sitting on eggs that are at various days old, and that's really not what you want. You want your eggs to try to hatch them out within a day of each other. That's myself personally, within a day, because then the birds all have the same opportunity. If she has to sit longer on some eggs, what hatches out, the ones that have already hatched, aren't going to have the opportunity to get down and water and feed the way that they should normally do, the chicks. So she may be holding off longer than she should. So if you can put something up or put her in a different position, go out at night and move her from that location, put her in a different spot where you want her to be so that she can be protected, and she'll sit. Unmolested, they'll sit.
All right. Thanks, brother.
Okay, Bray?
Have a good one.
You too, man.
Bye-bye. Okay, we got a couple of questions being thrown at me, so let's see if we can get to them. The mom, she wants to know, do you raise goats?
Not yet. And I'm actually, I think I'm going to start raising Icelandic sheep. I think I'm going to move in a different direction. And this whole goat-sheep debate has gone on with me for quite a while, and I think I'm going to go with the Icelandic sheep because they're hardy. They browse versus graze, and there's enough forest here. There's enough brush. I could keep some browsing animals very healthy and happy for quite a period of time. But now goats, the whole escape thing bothers me. I want to be chasing my four-legged critters through the woods where the other four-legged critters are chasing them as well. So.
Okay.
I'm backed up against. I'm backed up against 2 miles of forest. So if my animals get loose and go into the woods, down in the woods, it's not going to end very well. So.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I have a question for you, and I'm sure someone else is not understanding like me. What's the difference between browse and graze?
Sheep graze. They eat grass. They chop the grass. Goats browse. They eat leaves, twigs. They're like a deer.
Okay.
A goat is more like a deer. A sheep grazes on pasture land. So there's the difference.
I got you. So if you have a lot of pasture land, then you want to go with the sheep. Or did I get that backwards?
No, you got that right. You got that one right, Bear. You go, girl.
I'm really surprised. Okay, we got another question from Trill a Minute. Steve, do you have livestock guarding dogs? Is I think what they asked. Do your dogs actually guard them?
My dogs are Czechoslovakian shepherds, and they're very protective animals. Oh. And yes, they will protect. My old shepherd, she absolutely despises foxes. And if she can't catch them, if they're coming after the flock and she can't catch them, it's Dad's job to slow them down with a little bit of lead so that she can catch them. And she takes care of them once she gets a hold of them. So, yes, they run off coyotes. They will engage anything that comes into the dooryard, including turkeys. It doesn't matter. They're very protective animals.
That is wonderful. I had an Australian Shepherd once, and it was the best dog I ever had in my life. Wonderful.
I have a very, very, very tight bond with my animals, my dogs especially. So.
Yeah. Okay, it looks like we've got Dave Womack back in the queue. Somehow we lost him, and thank you, Dave, for calling back in, and come on in.
Hey, thanks for having me on here. Sorry about that. My phone dropped signal earlier.
Oh, that's okay. I thought we lost you.
One way or the other. But anyway, first time kind of listening into the show and enjoying what I'm hearing and definitely like what you guys are doing here. Just had a quick question for you. I've got about a dozen parrots, and I was wondering, as you can imagine, they probably they put off quite a bit of fertilizer, if you will, and wanted to know if you guys know anything about parrot droppings, if they can be used anyway for fertilizer.
I don't know. I don't know anything about it, but I will tell you that hen manure is pretty strong stuff. But there's a channel out there, Sustenance and Covering.
Yeah.
Sustenance and Cover, I think is his channel name. And he shows you how to make a tea out of the droppings. Basically, you're diluting it in water.
Oh, okay.
And then spreading it that way. I do not apply. My garden is strictly cow manure, pig manure, hay, and shavings composted down, and that is exactly what is in my garden. I do not have any soil in there per se. I plant directly in that compost, and just it rots down every year, and I just keep adding to it. If the beds that I did put the hen dressing in, mixed some hen manure in there, I had mixed results, and on potatoes I ended up with a pretty bad blight. I lost a whole year's worth of potatoes, and I kind of blame it on the chicken manure, because when the beds that I put the potatoes in that don't have the chicken manure, I don't have any problems. So
okay,
but it's acidic, and it's going to raise some pH somewhere. So I imagine if you had some wood shavings, you could probably put the wood ashes. You could neutralize that.
Okay, yeah, I've got a lot to learn. All the gardening stuff is extremely new to me, and I've got, I can make buckets of parrot droppings pretty quickly. So if I can put them to good use, I'd love to.
Well, I would give it a shot. Try it, experiment. That's the only way I've done it, is just throw it against the wall and see what sticks, so to speak.
Well, since I'm totally new to the gardening concept, is there, and if I'm too off topic, please, let me know. But is there a method of converting this into something that I could plant that you could suggest? I mean, at least trying, like you mentioned, mixing it possibly with wood shavings, and what's kind of a first step I would probably take to even experiment with that?
Well, do you have a compost pile or someplace with grass clippings or anything that you kind of compost down, rot down?
Yeah, I do. I do have access to it.
If you have a pile of that, is basically compost. If you just toss your manure in there with what you have there presently, any organic material, it's going to rot down, and I wouldn't apply it directly because it's going to be hot. You need to let it kind of ferment a little bit and tame it down a little bit. And if you put it in with the other compost, I imagine that would work. I wouldn't see why it wouldn't.
Okay, well, it's certainly worth giving it a try. I appreciate you guys' input on this.
My best of luck to you.
All right, thanks. Love what you're doing here. Keep it up.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you, Dave. You have a wonderful evening. Okay, well, someone asked the question, and I already know the answer, but I'm going to ask again anyways. Do you do the Back to Eden gardening?
No.
Yeah, me neither.
No, I have my garden spaces, because I'm on a hill, I have taken stone, because this is Maine, and everything's rock. So I just take the rocks, and I built tiered gardens, probably 2 feet deep at one end, down to 6 inches on the other end, and then it drops down and goes to the next bed. And they're full of just what comes out of my barn right now. I put it in a big pile. I rotate it every week. I try to turn it as much as I can to get it composted down, and then in the spring, I'll haul it up and spread it and till it. And that's what I plan there. And that's the straight. That's as straight as I can get it.
Man, that is beautiful. I love the way your gardens look. It's like a terrace. You can look out and see the beautiful plants. And you did that video with that bumblebee, and I just sat there amazed watching that bumblebee. I was like, are you kidding? That's what got me to think about raising bees. And so I just built my shop bar. I said, well, if he's not afraid of them, I don't need to be afraid of them.
Oh, that big old bumblebee! I could have picked him up. He wasn't gonna bite me. I was no threat to him. So
he was beautiful. But you You talked about
Thank
having
you.
the land full of rocks, and I'm thinking, oh, Steve, you have not seen rocks. Have you seen my property?
No, but it is true, though. It's all granite here. They had to blast to put my foundation in. This when I bought it, it was all raw land. It was all the tail end of a 200-something-year-old pasture, and this place is the house at the end of the road. There's only 4 of us in here, and I'm the last one in. The house at the end of the road was built in 1792. It's the oldest structure in my town, and this was all part. So you know that a couple hundred years ago, the people were hauling stones by oxen because they couldn't afford horses. They were using oxen and building these stone walls with them. So a little heritage.
Yeah, I know. We rent a bobcat every year, and we're building a rock wall in front of the fence, and we just scoop it up, and we're getting like 2 foot at a time, and it's nothing but rock. We'll stick the dirt out of it to try to make the garden.
Nothing like. I'm a big fan of cow manure. Nothing like cow manure. It's just the best.
Yeah, we just got some, and that's what we're actually going to put on the garden this year because we haven't added anything to the dirt. What we did was we scooped out the dirt from the creek, and that's what we've been using in the garden to build the garden because there's no dirt anywhere. And I needed my garden. And my poor orchard, we had to get one of those 6-inch drill bits to dig a hole.
Wow.
But
you're in Texas. I've never been to Texas, but I've been to Wyoming. It's very similar landscape.
Yeah, it's kind of you do what you got to do if you want to be able to survive and take care of yourself. Well, it looks like we're down to the last couple minutes. Is there any last-minute advice that you would give somebody before they made the decision to start raising animals?
Sure. Don't accept no for an answer. If you want it bad enough, go do it. Just there's enough people on YouTube that are good people. There's some really good people on YouTube that you can reach out to that will be more than happy to help you. But I can't express to people enough that no one was there to lead me. I had to follow my heart, and I had to learn from trial and error. And it's the most rewarding thing that I've ever done in my whole life, and that is including building a $25 million company. This is the most rewarding thing that I've ever done.
Well, that is some wonderful advice, and Steve, it has been wonderful having you here tonight, folks. Please check him out on YouTube. It's SebagoSteve, SebagoSteve. He teaches us a lot of things, and he's always available to answer your questions. He's one of the good guys there on YouTube. And Steve,
thank you
so much for sharing your time with us, and I hope in the future you'll come back.
The pleasure was all mine, and anytime you need me, Bear, you let me know.
Thank you, and you have a wonderful evening.
You too. God bless, guys.
God bless. Bye-bye. Okay, folks, so tonight I'd like to leave you with this quote by Ralph Waldo Emerson. Shallow men believe in luck or in circumstances. Strong men believe in cause and effect. I will see you a week from Tuesday, February 26th at 8 p.m. when we'll be talking to HWIT. He is just about ready to be totally off-grid. Let's hear about the decisions he's made and the logic behind them. At some point, we may all be off-grid, and learning lessons can come from everywhere, not just the ones you make yourself. So if you've ever thought about cutting the ties, come learn what it takes to get there. You can find more from me on YouTube and on Facebook, also here every Tuesday. Thank you for spending your valuable time with me. Good night and blessings.